Praise God. Greetings to all our viewers in Guyana and in the diaspora. We're glad you can join us on Choices. We say thanks and may God richly bless you. I'm tickled. The question we asked last week, very, very important question. What's going on? We all want to know what's going on. And so, as we continue, I want to ask you some questions. What am I doing with my life? That's number one. Number two, am I prepared to be of help to others? This world is crying out for help. The lyrics from a classic gospel hymn performed by Mahalia Jackson, who said, quote, finding purpose in life is by offering kindness,
Amen.
a word of cheer, or guidance to others.
Yep.
Ensuring one's life isn't lived in vain. I'll repeat that last sentence. Ensuring one's life isn't lived in vain. Unquote. We want from Choices to be of help to you. And so we encourage you to stay with us. Not only enjoy the program, but to put in practice what you hear. God bless you, and God continue to bless beautiful Guyana. Thank you.
What's going on? We can't pretend that we have not been observing some of the ills in our society as it relates to our young people. When we look around, we are troubled and we are concerned. And fundamentally, this issue rests on the family. And if we could draw your attention to Proverbs 22:6, says, train up a child in the way he should go, so that when he's old, he will not depart from it. So the wise man was writing, speaking to training as important to bring balance in the life or in the lives of these young people. I know that when we look at some of them, the first thing is to dismiss them and to say that they are no good and they will get what they're looking for. But everyone has a point where they could turn, and so it would be remiss of us to just dismiss all of them. Think about if we have 10,000 young people like that, and we dismiss all of them, what we will actually be doing is releasing them on ourselves. So it is important that we tap into them as a resource that could be used for transformation. And if we could back up, if we remember, in the Bible, there was a man called Saul. And I don't think some of the young people, they have done what he did. He was a man who stood and over the destruction of Christians. He presided over the destruction of Christians, not just anybody, but Christian people. But then, he had a relationship. He met with God, and he was transformed. But even in his transformation, community is still important, because a man like that was considered a dangerous man. But even though he was transformed, when he went among the brethren, they were afraid. So somebody had to say, Ananias had to say, look, Brother Saul is now a good man. So the issue of community is so important too, because God transformed him, but nobody knows. So somebody had to stand for this man and say that he can be good, or he has experienced the change of God. So all we're saying is that yes, we see the fighting, and so on, but let's start this thing with the family, and then it is important for the family to tap in now to community. If the family don't have the capacity, their organizations, their agencies like the church. Sometimes people dismiss the church, but the church is a powerful place for transformation. Some of the worst people ever passed through the church, and then they became different. And so some of us, our lives are a testimony to that, because we were not good all the time. if I could use that term. We were not nice people because we came out of the world. And so I'm saying to you that those children, they have value, they have a soul, and if we could touch the part that makes them happy, that makes them tick, if you want to say that, we could see transformation. But parents and must not abandon this role of training and teaching, because the family is foundation. And if the foundation is not doing its job well, then we have problems. But like I said, children are raised within the context of a community too. So here is where the organizations, here is where people from outside could look at a child and say, look, you can be a good person. A teacher told me that. While some of them were saying this is what's going to happen to you, and so one teacher said you can be, you can become somebody. So we still need to encourage them, notwithstanding their behavior. We still need to get close to them and examine what it is that really will cause them to do well. Some like sports, some like football, cricket, some like to be a tough man and those kinds of things. And so we can help them. Let's not throw them one side.
Well, thank you very much. And that same Apostle Paul wrote, and he made a statement, but such, he gave a list of people who were living in error. And then he said, but such were some of us, but we have been what? Washed. We have been cleansed. Transformation is possible. Please let us tell you, because where we are now is far from where the Lord met us and literally transformed our lives. There are people who are sitting in powerful offices around the country and around the world, but they were not always there. They had an encounter with the power of God that brought transformation. Some of them were conformed bad men and bad women, and nobody could change them. We are putting it on the table that transformation in your life is possible. And we pray that you will have the experience. Dr. Keisha, you are a medical professional, a young woman. They are young men and women who are wondering, is there a way, is there a place? Can you please, you will talk to us? Martin, you're young. Can you, after she's through, could you join? And then Dr. Paul, you're young too. Could you please speak and make not just the Lord, make Ansgrove proud of you? Dr. Keisha.
Thank you, Bishop, for the opportunity to speak. As I'm listening to my fellow brothers speak with the varying scriptures to support, I'm recalling one particular situation where this young woman, she's well known. Nobody likes her to be in any group because she's considered disruptive. If you want somebody who's going to just ensure they try their levels best for the meeting to go south, it is her. Nobody wanted her because, one thing I noticed as a medical professional is that persons, sometimes their behavior is actually an invitation for a validation of who they are as an individual. This young lady was basically saying, I desire to be seen. I desire to be heard because I don't receive this attention within my home. So I remember saying to her, starting from today, you will be my public relations officer. I noticed that everybody in the room was like, what? I can submit to every person listening to this meeting. That is one of the persons that would not just transform from being a representative of that particular group, but to also be an example. This young lady moved from coming religiously at about 9-something in the morning and dressing in all manner to becoming somebody who is punctual and disciplined. I remember everybody celebrating her and clapping for her when she received the award on behalf of our department. I'm saying not every behavior is indicative of somebody who doesn't have hope, but it's maybe a shout to say, I need you to give a word of encouragement to me. And yes, there is help. If we would take time to look at these cues, there is lots of help out there. I want to start with the church. That for me has been a foundation. Most of you know that I'm Buxtonian, and my way of dealing with matters before I knew the Lord was to abuse you and cuss you. Because the fact that every time you look at me, you could see that at the end of the day, there's a little Buxtonian, she black, she from Buxton, she Warish. In fact, my name was a big bad black bully. To where I am today, I found hope within the sphere of the church, where men and women reminded me that I don't have to be a statistic. Somebody left me with the word of God and reminded me that Jesus came from Nazareth. So that was foundational for me. When it comes to our government system, there is the Ministry of Social Protection. And also you can receive help from there. And I want to say to you, finally, any health facility that you go to, there is help. Because we are guardians of being able to promote the health and well-being of every individual that comes within our reach, and we deal with you holistically. So any point in time where you feel like you just need somebody to reach out to, seek the church or find yourself in any one of our health facilities or the Ministry of Social Protection, and we will serve.
Well, excellent. Well, I'll talk a bit about Generation Next, and I'll use a different perspective of bringing hope to young people. One of my favorite things when I'm leading different courses at Generation Next, or when I sit into classes like the free maths class that we have for CXC, where you see Sir Collins there and he's teaching maths and all of that. One of the most amazing things to me is to look into the eyes of young people or to people in general, and you see when the plug hits the socket. You're able to see when learning occurs. You're able to see when, okay, I sparked a new idea. And what this means is that when you bring hope, or bringing hope is possible for many people, sometimes those eureka moments happen when you're intentionally teaching. Some of them, at the end of a program, all you hear is, oh, oh. And that's when you realize that, all right, what you've been doing is transformational and can help. And the idea is you just keep on pushing and you continue doing your work. And along that journey for young people's development, somebody else, if it doesn't happen in your phase, it'll happen in somebody else's phase. I could also highlight there's some young people out there who they just want to be viewed as useful rather than a distraction. But the only thing they know about is being a distraction. So as a leader, you have to now figure out what does this child's behavior actually mean? Why are they interacting like this? And how could I help them to harness who they are? So as a leader, it's important for you to spend some time to try to understand the kind of people you're influencing and you're grooming. And then there's another set who are like live wires, the bouncing around everywhere. And sometimes you're worried that, when these young people are going out there, you don't know if they're growing or if they're not growing. And then you realize over time that everybody grows differently, And these are things that we need to consider. So when it comes to bringing hope to that next generation and seeing growth potential in the young people around, sometimes you just have to be patient and have a good system around you. And also remember that one of my favorite guys is Nehemiah, where he normally enters systems that are broken down. People say they can't fix, they can't do this. And by the grace of God and hard work and innovation, he's able to bring that sort of change. So that's kind of like the model I use when it comes to revitalizing systems and all of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deacon Martin, for what you do, the transformational work that you do in the lives of young people. And I pray that you will be inspired to continue doing what you're doing. I have two close friends, and I'm going to call their names. Clint Amsterdam, originally from New Amsterdam, and Tom Finance, originally from Linden. But we all grew up in Ants Grove back then. And I really want to thank our parents for teaching us the value of hard work. You know, we took care of pigs, we took care of cows. You know, there are times when we had to fetch bitter cassava. You got to fetch that cassava, you got to peel it, you got to wash it, you got to grate it in the process of making cassava bread,
Easy.
you know? And it was such an amazing time as we grew up together. There's so many times we swam in that Clanbrook Trench, that murky water, you know, for so many hours. You had something on your skin they call crapple beard. Actually, you know what I'm talking about.
Amen.
And but we were not always like that. You know, there were times when we did a lot of mischief, a lot of bad things. And were there opportunities to run afoul of the law? Of course. Were there opportunities to be involved in things that mortgaged your future? Yes. But we made a decision. What kept us is number one, we made a decision that we will not go in this direction. And I really want to thank God for those teachers, our parents, Sunday school teachers, the pastors. Pastor Dover, I talk about him all the time, who empowered us, who encouraged us, who validated us. You know, so many times we raided Cousin Canty yard. Those people, they had a yard. You believe it was like a forest of fruit trees. And we raided that man's yard so many times. God forgive us. But you know, we thank God that our encounter with Jesus, all of us, we are in our 50s now, over 40 something years, we are friends. Jesus made the difference in our lives. And our goal, our encouragement is to empower other people. Our lives are impacting people not only in the village of Anns Grove and Anns Grove back down, but the entire world. Clint lives in the United States. Tom lives in the United States, and they're both doing very well. So what we're saying is, parents, encourage your children, validate them, empower them, be patient, and children, find a way to make the right decisions. Keep your focus on the prize, on the future. Don't mortgage, don't torpedo your life and your future for something that is short term. So we want to encourage all of you to keep doing what you're doing, especially our teachers and caregivers, our parents, and our neighbors. Keep encouraging the young people because there's a future for them.
How did you escape from criminal enterprise, Dr. Lee, Reverend Asana, anybody? How did you escape from criminal enterprise?
Bishop, I like the categorization, criminal enterprise. I want to thank my parents who, despite poverty, despite the fact you weren't certain where the next meal was coming from, you had your Sunday best clothes you only had to wear to church, and not many others, one pair of shoe. But values were taught. The importance of hard work, the importance of honesty, the importance of striving to achieve excellence. I think those things were driven into us, into me at a very early age. And closely following those value systems that were taught was the whip that was close by to beat you back into shape anytime you run afoul not of the law but the rules and regulations that were laid down in the home. And so with people, well, there was no sparing of the rod. And so I am grateful for the lashes that I receive because they have kept me, played no small role in keeping me away from the criminal enterprise, as you put it. And so I want to encourage parents. It might be difficult, especially single parents. It might be difficult for you You might know where you get the next meal to give the child or your children, clothing for them to wear. But I want to encourage you to continue to talking with them, encourage them, pray for them. You know, one of the things, we are in the final week of our 21 days Daniel fast, and one of the things that we are doing, we are not only praying for this nation, we are praying for the communities, because we recognize that prayer works. Prayer is important. And so, single parents, mothers especially, I want to encourage you, go down on your knees and pray for your children. God still hears
Yes.
and answers prayer. And my life is a testimony of that, of prayer bringing me through and ensure that I did not become a deviant, but rather an asset to society.
Warlock,
Oh,
how did you escape criminal enterprise?
Yeah. Well, well, I grew up in an area where that kind of reputation was rampant. But like I said, and many of you may have heard it before, my father always said to me that I have to become somebody. He was a carpenter. Strangely enough, he didn't uh, point me into that trade, but he said, I want you to go to school and I want you to excel. So he said to me, learn as much as you can. And this was a feature every day that I leave for school. Sometimes he would wait until my friends come and then make the statement. And so sometimes I just run through the door and try to disappear out of his voice. And so while I'm running, he's still shouting, learn as much as you can. He says, stay away from bad company and walk on the right hand side of the road. So this was a mantra. This was something that was repeated to me every morning. So I actually started to believe what he was saying. There were times when I remember his words and I watched my friends. I took education seriously. And so a parent could really cause a child to be grounded. And my father didn't go to university. I really need to make this point. Some people believe that you got to be some fantastic person, went to Oxford, Harvard, or UG or somewhere for you to be effective. But sometimes it's just a little coaching, a little counseling from a father, a mother, from the parents, and we could see transformation coming in the lives of people. So I stepped back and never found myself being a part of any of the shenanigans or the adverse delinquent activities in that community.
Reverend Osana, how did you escape?
Bishop, in answering the question, I believe it took a village, along with my parents. I give credit to several persons around me who, along the way, helped in the process. Indeed, I experienced the strain, the pressures of the society, the negative pressures, but there was a community from very early in my life. I can remember of persons who always believe that if they stay close to me, I would be able to make it. So I believe that even though the temptation to be wayward, wicked, to go on the bad side, and in some cases even tried it, raiding people's trees and doing all the different little things that boys will do. I'm sure there were openings that could have taken me down the negative road, but from my parents to members around the church, members in the community, up to this day, even you, as my bishop, you have been able to maintain, help me as of course, as a young man and now as an adult, to remain focused on the dreams. And I think every young person need that as a part of their society. There are several persons who have written on these issues to support it. And I think every society need that kind of structure.
Ella Wesley, you observe society every single day as a valued technician and as a social worker. How did you escape, and what can you say to the 13-year-olds, the 14-year-olds, the 16-year-olds who are coming under the influence of criminal enterprise? What advice do you have?
Bishop, allow me to use my own life as an example, because as a early teenager, being around criminal elements, I wasn't spared from that. I saw men push ice pick in others. I saw men who used to jump people's house. They used to line with us. But something happened to me as an individual. Some light was turned on in my head around 14, 15. And I realized that I could not go that way. And so I want to speak to those young men out there, young women, while you might be influenced by what is happening around you, allow the Spirit of God to take a hold of you. I think of the caterpillar. Nobody wants anything to do with the caterpillar. But when that transformation takes place, that beautiful butterfly that comes out of that cocoon, that caterpillar doesn't die as a caterpillar. It dies as a butterfly, but valuable to society. So the same thing can happen with our lives. Just be encouraged.
I'm thinking there's one phrase repeated over and over. We go back to the family. It's we return. Transformation is possible.
Yes, sir.
And the community is very important. You're valuable. We want each boy, each young lady to know you valuable, and you are so valuable. And if I were to take $100 US and crush it up, spit on it, stomp on it, pick up dark feces with it, and I were to offer it to you now, would you take it? I posed that decades ago to classes I was training in Ghana and overseas. And the people said, yes, they will take it. And I asked why. And they said, because it has value. It is valuable. From the set of choices, we want you to know that you are valuable. You have you were made that way. You came into the world with value. Don't allow others to destroy that inherent value placed within you by God. Develop it and be a blessing. This is Choices. We'll see you next week, the Lord willing. Bye-bye.
We thank you for joining us on Choices today. Remember, you can join us at First Assembly, LNP Durban Street, Workmanville, Georgetown, Guyana, for any of our special services. I'm Celestia on behalf of the set, reminding you that your whole life is the sum of your choices. God bless you.